show you how we used to catch yellow bass. Just for everybody out there that doesn't quite have a live scope yet.
So right here, it doesn't really show when you check it with your flasher. You can't really see that brake line, and it doesn't change much, but this little kind of U-shape corner right there, I know I got a pin just off to the side that says yellow, but I've always liked this little corner here, up in here, that corner up there. So just looking at my graph, we're gonna check this spot first, concentrate on it, drill out a grid, and see if we can get on some yellows.
Yep, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna drill one hole. We're gonna make sure we have the right depth. That's the biggest thing is sometimes what your lake map says or whatever you're going off of, you gotta check your depth, because it might say 14 foot of water and you'll drill a bunch of holes and you'll have 4 to 5 foot of water. So make sure that you check that first before you go out and grid your grid, because you don't want to drill 50 holes and then be in the wrong spot.
Definitely.
So, all right, well, stay tuned. Here we go. We got this awesome clam plate on our drill now, and if you don't have one of those, highly recommended. Makes it much easier drilling your holes. I don't know if I can do it one-handed or not. Nope. All right, that's our first hole. We're gonna check our depth. Get the flasher fired up, check what depth we got, and we'll see if we want to grid this out or not. 16.4, so 16 feet. We're gonna grid this baby out because that's kind of our depth we want. We're gonna see if we can find some fish.
So center hole, and I made a circle all the way around here. Decent area. That way, if we do get on fish, we can kind of pinpoint which direction they're going if they're moving, and then you can drill another circle. But I was getting done with my last hole, came over here, and Lucas pulled the first fish out.
Yes, but then they scattered. I got one to bite and then they took off. So we have an idea of where they are now. So now we're going to start gridding more holes and try to get on top of them again. Got him. All right, there we go. Single fish. Sometimes they're hard to catch. Hopefully you guys were paying attention on how I was doing that, but you kind of get that bait in front of them and then you kind of do a slow raise. You slow your jigging cadence down. A lot of people say the single fish are finicky, but you can still get them to bite. So nice gill. We're gonna put him back. We get rebaited, even though I made a mess and spilled them all over. Now we're gonna go hole hop because we're kind of honed into where these fish were, and now we're gonna start moving around until I get back on top of them again. You're gonna leave your fish behind so that way you can mark where you caught them also, so that way you have an idea where they were, and just keep working them. It looks like there might be a few on the bottom here, but that's not what I want to see, so I'm going to start popping holes. Hole out. That's it.
Look at that.
There's a few fish down there. I want to see if they want to bite here. There we go. Make sure you stay above them. Don't be going to the bottom of them. Swing and a miss. Try to anticipate that bite sometimes when they cover your bait up on the flasher. It doesn't hurt to set the hook, because a lot of times you don't see or feel anything and those fish will be down there. Just like that. I lifted that rod tip up and that rod tip just barely stayed down. That let me know I had one on there. Alright. Just as quick as you get one, you got to get right back down there and get another one.
We are on the fish here. Boy, he came in and just...
Oh, he drilled that.
He drilled that hard.
These fish are aggressive. They are biting, and that was on one spike is all I had on there. But all right, so you see I'm going right down to where the fish are, but I'm staying above them because the aggressive ones are going to come up and they're going to chase it. You don't want to have that bad habit of going down to where the fish are. You want to make those fish come up to you. See how he's following it there, sitting there? Just kind of lift it up, get him to follow it more. He didn't like that though. Come back, buddy, come on. It's your friend to come back and bite. And see how I'm not going down to them, I'm staying above them and trying to make them come up after me, because those are the ones you're going to get to bite. You know, a lot of people have a bad habit of wanting to go to the bottom where the fish are, but the ones you want to bite are the ones coming up. You're there, come on. Oh, and I missed him. I blew that one.
Way to go.
I know. He'll come back. There he comes. I bet you, if I had to guess, I don't have any bait left. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Chasing too hard.
There you go. See, so that happens. Remember that. If you're getting fish to follow but they're not hitting it, most likely they took your spike off, because these fish are the kings of taking your bait away from you. That's why we try to put at least 2 or 3 on every time. 1, 2, and 3. Now we'll see what they think of that. That ice frost.
No, the mannerism's gonna change drastically.
Yes.
As soon as you go down there.
As soon as we get it down there with bait on it, now we're gonna look at them chase already. Come on, you're right there. Oops.
You're gonna get your bait again.
I know, well, it's hard. Got a lot of interference there, seeing where they're at. Must have a little ice on it.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. That's better. That's better.
There we go.
Sorry about that. I didn't quite have the cold weather, and you got to make sure and pay attention to where your bail is, so sometimes that line doesn't get there. But just like that, didn't even get any of my spikes either. These single fish are harder to get to bite, though. You gotta slow it down when you get one single fish by himself. Dang it. Boy, I'm full of it.
You missed him. There he is.
Not that time, buddy. Not that time. See, you can get these. Everyone says these yellows are finicky when there's 1 or 2, but that's where you just slow your jigging cadence down and fish them just like you would a crappie or a bluegill, and you can still get these fish to go. I mean, that was just a slow lift, and you're watching your tip, because he's not gonna smoke it. He's sucking it in his mouth, and you gotta watch that tip, because when that rod tip's bouncing, you lift up and that thing, just little bit of resistance, you set the hook and that fish will be there. So, perfect. Looks like we got more down there. Oh, there he was too. There he was. He got away from me. But looks to me like we're going to have to move to a different spot now when my school is leaving. And that's what you do. You fish them. And now you see there's nothing on there. So now we got to go get up and go to a different hole. See if we can't find them stacked again. The old spinner toppers.
Hey, that helps sometimes with these yellow bass.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to argue that. Now they're not showing up as much, but there's fish there. They were there. Sometimes you get a lot of marks and they're smaller fish, and that's why they're leaving, or you're not catching them, so then you got to move again. Because those smaller fish are a lot harder to catch, and obviously you don't want the small ones. So you got to make sure and kind of pay attention to that. If you get a lot of followers or a lot of fish coming up and they're not wanting to hit, most likely those are smaller ones, and you're going to want to try a different spot or possibly just jump to a different hole to find some better quality fish. Yep, we're going to have to do exactly that. So see, I fished this hole for a quick amount of time, had a couple marks. They came in, they just looked, they took off, so I'm not going to mess around with those. I'm going to find fish that bite. Not that time, my friends. Okay, well, we popped a few holes, but like we said, that's why you kind of leave fish by your holes that you were catching them at, because we went and checked a few other ones, came back, and they're back here again.
And that's another good example of making noise walking on the ice, which is part of the reason, a little tip here, why you have one guy drilling, one guy fishing. Because while he's fishing, the guy drilling can move that school of fish, and you can figure out quicker if there's fish there or not.
Yes, because I mean, just walking hole to hole, you know, drilling holes pushes them. Obviously, people driving cars by, driving vehicles on the ice pushes fish all over the place. Especially this time of year when they've been fished pretty hard for the last month and a half or so. So these fish are a lot more skittish. So any kind of noise, any kind of movement can, you know, push your school to the left or the right of you. So that's why you want to grid your holes right away, get them drilled, and let everything calm down, and then just kind of hop to hole. When you got a lot of fish around you, quick. Get that fish off the hook and get that sucker back down there as fast as you can. Because a little bit of delay, or if you give them any chance at all to leave, they're going to leave on you. So you got to make sure you fish them and you get back down and get a bait back in the water as quick as possible. I mean, we've even had tactics where, you know, if there's multiple people fishing and you've got a big school on there, when you catch a fish, your buddy's behind you, you catch a fish, and then they come in, they fish the hole while you're taking your fish off, and you just kind of keep doing that to keep those fish in there. It looks silly, but it works. Hopefully you guys can see that, but just kind of watch this jigging cadence here. See how he's kind of just wobbling that tip? He's not jerking the tip, but he's just getting that thing to kind of nice little wobble to it, keep it moving. The biggest thing to entice these finicky or yellow bass to bite. And then if the fish are gone or you don't have any fish around, that's when you can kind of get aggressive with your jigging, kind of what he's doing. That's why he's popping it. That's
fired up.
Yep. There he is. Fish on. Just like that. And he did the same thing with that. Just lifted up slowly, and that tip, I mean, if you could see it there, how that tip just changed the cadence just a little bit. And he set the hook, and those fish are there, because these yellows, I know we've said it a bunch, but these yellows, you don't see much at all for a bite. I mean, they're so fast, and when they come in, by the time you feel or see anything, it's usually them spitting it out and they're already gone.
Yeah.
It can be very frustrating, but that's kind of why we're doing this video, to give everybody a little more tips and tricks on how to figure these finikier fish out, or just figuring in general how these yellow bass act.
Right. And I don't know if you can see the tip in that clip there. You could tell that I was anticipating it, and I wasn't prepared for it because I anticipated it, but he was actually there. I gave him just a little slack, which is why we set the hook hard, because they have hard mouths. And if I wouldn't have set the hook hard there, I would have missed him.
Yes. As we said before, hook sets are free. There it is.
Gotta love the deucer cord.
Yes, that happens every time. And sometimes it'll cost you fish because they'll come off on the deucer cord, or they'll come off at the bottom of the hole, but
I'm gonna get some more bait on there.
more
Only
spikes.
left me with one.
Usually you got to have at least 2 to 3 on there.
Yeah.
And we know that Justin at the bait shop has plenty of these red spikes, so don't be
For
afraid
sure.
to get as many as you can and put them on there. And that, like I said, the gold pilkey, I know that Summer Outdoors has a whole entire line of these in the shop. I think they run about $4.99 a piece, so it's kind of been the go-to bait for these yellow bass, is either a pilkey or the trio tackle one as well. So just keep that in mind. Here, fishy, fishy.
There it was.
Finally.
That anticipation bite. There was no visual, didn't feel anything, see anything, nothing. Once he covered my bait there, I just kind of popped it so that, you know, you're anticipating the bite. If you see that rod tip drop just that little bit in your anticipation, you can follow through with a hook set.
And this is why
every time it works.
This is why too that, I mean, what kind of rod you're using matters as well. I mean, you want to have a panfish or kind of a noodle rod, but not quite. You need to have a stiffer tip that can handle your jigging cadences, but you need to have something that is really, really light, just because it's every little tap, every little bump, you can see it.
And out of water there, I'm barely moving it. You'll connect with a lot more of these yellows, and I mean, even bluegill, crappie, walleye.
Yes.
Everybody talks about, you know, dead sticking for walleye. So you got a minnow down there, and the walleye's chewing on it. So you can slowly watch that tip drop, and they don't feel it. It's the same with every fish. If they're not gonna feel it, they're gonna keep it in their mouth. Especially, I mean, they like the bait. They're not gonna spit it out if they like it. So it's gonna stay there. And you can anticipate that. With these yellows, they like to suck it in and spit it out. That's how they taste it. They just suck it in, spit it out, suck it in, spit it out. So anticipating that bite, you're gonna connect with a lot more yellows.
Like I said, anticipation bites, probably 80 to 85% of the time, you're gonna get a fish. You're gonna have a lot of missed hook sets too, but like we said, don't feel bad about it. That's just the nature of fishing for yellow bass.
Yeah.
That's what makes it fun. And also what makes it fun to make fun of each other, things like that too. Hook sets are free.
That they are.
So are cases of beer if your buddy buys them for you.
Oh boy.
Problem is these fish don't give you much time to drink anything. The only good part about it is if you do crack a cold one, you set it on the ice, it stays cold.
Yeah, it's gonna stay cold.
So whenever you get to it,
Be sitting there waiting for you, nice and cold. Might be flat. It'll still be cold or frozen.
or frozen.
There's still some fish down there, but I don't want to go down to them. If there's fish in the area, it'll bring more to that area.
You can kind of see those fish on the bottom there. They're sitting right on the bottom, but like we say, everybody wants to go down to them. But your success rate will go down a lot if you try to fish off the bottom. I mean, you're going to catch a few, but then you're going to catch one or two, your school's going to leave you. And like we said, you stay in that 10 to 12 foot range, depending on your depth, because you can see them now. See how they're coming up? That's what you want, because the more fish you get coming up off the bottom, that means they're all looking up. And when they're looking up and they're seeing your bait, they're going to try to charge at it and eat it.
Once in a while, it doesn't hurt, reel up, check your bait, just to check your bait. But for the most part, I'm reeling up and dropping down because it sends that bait flying through the water column, and they can feel that. They might be able to see that if they're close enough, and it could trigger them to come in and smack it.
So that's one of my favorite parts, when you have that big school down there and you just drop down to the top of it. As soon as you stop and close the bail and reel up once, bam, they smack it because they're so fired up.
Yeah. Well, we might have to try another hole.
Legend set. They almost got it all, or they did. Should throw some plastic on, see what they think of that. I don't know though. They're fired up, but they're not. Oh, that's what we want there. That was all anticipation, and that fish came flying in there and smacked it. And I got fish that are down low, but I'm still staying at that 10 to 12 foot mark. I'm not, don't let these fish tempt you to get down there, because if you get down, if you start fishing the bottom, your school is going to clear out. So even though I have fish that I'm marking that are on the bottom or close to the bottom, I'm still staying at that. I'm in 16 foot of water and I'm still jigging at 10 to 12 foot, and I'm not going under that. So I know we were all taught to fish the bottom and pound the bottom, but with yellows, if you go to the bottom, they chase you down there. But then once they get to the bottom, chasing your jig down there, they get to the bottom, and then that school will disperse, and they're going to keep swimming because they're looking for food. So that's why you want to get up here higher, because once you get up higher, they come up, and that means you're getting every fish looking up. And when they're looking up, they want to feed, and they're coming up, and they're seeing everything coming down at them, and they're after it. Sniffing it. Whew. Your turn.
Okay.
I gotta get my glove bag on. We want to see somebody actually catch fish instead of miss them.